going to do it again. My name is Arjun. I work for Li.Fi. Li.Fi is an aggregator of bridges, DEXs, DEX aggregators. And we work with customers like MetaMask, Phantom, Robinhood. They integrate us as this like one API to do all sort of swaps. And that's how we fit in.
Hey, I'm Nikhil. Hey, I'm Nikhil. I lead product at the Wormhole Foundation. Wormhole is an interoperability protocol. We connect over 40 blockchains, have facilitated over 1 billion messages, $57 billion in volume, and yeah, excited to be here.
Hi, I'm a product manager at Polymer. Our goal is to basically help applications do interop without the need of any messaging involved.
Okay, the first question will be like, we all know that there's so many bridges and interoperability protocols, right? After so many years, right now we have tons of chains, L1s, L2s, L3s, right? Based on your experience, what's the major blocker right now for the interop, like sort of protocols?
I mean, like in my experience, it's still liquidity. Like any protocol that owns the liquidity kind of sort of controls the market. Like even if you want to expand to a new chain, any bridge would need to bootstrap liquidity between that route. And that's actually one of the main bottlenecks to connect any new chain to existing chains. But I'm actually curious to hear Nikhil's thought, because like you guys have this mint and burn mechanism that you can actually overcome this liquidity barrier with.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Interop has been around for a long time. There have been a lot of efforts to solve interop. And over time, I think we've solved a lot of bottlenecks in interop. So I think security was originally one of the big bottlenecks in interop. I think security, obviously, there's like ZK that can be solved, but largely like security has been roughly solved in interop, I think. I think another bottleneck in interop was like speed. People wanted to do faster than finality transfers. And I think that's another bottleneck that has largely been solved. There are a lot of protocols today that are working on continuing to improve that, but only pretty much like marginal improvements at this point. I think liquidity is a great point, actually. I think liquidity is a big bottleneck. Related to that is just like chain expansion. I think chain expansion continues to be a bottleneck in interop, especially as more alt VM chains launch and people build their own flavors of EVM or their own flavors of Solana. It's pretty challenging actually to implement new smart contracts and learn those new VMs and then get funds to those VMs, because it's not just, Arjun is right, there's liquidity, but there's also, it's not just liquidity. You have to have like a whole stack of protocols to actually bring that liquidity to your ecosystem. And if you're building in a new environment that requires new smart contracts, that's kind of a challenge to do.
We talk about permissionless expansion a lot, but like if it was that easy, everyone would do it. Like you can't just one-click deploy all sort of bridging infrastructure to a new chain, right? And that's why like you guys are doing a lot of work. But yes, like in general, people think that it's very easy to deploy to a new chain. Like people ask us, why aren't you live on XYZ chain on day one? That's because like there's gas to figure out, there's like RPCs to figure out, there's liquidity to figure out, then you have to swap on that chain. There are just like too many variables that we do not control.
Yeah, I think I have a very different take. I come from like, working with applications, so my core target is not always liquidity bridging. So for me, the biggest barrier which I've seen in like our users has actually been the fact that Interop till now was built for liquidity bridging. That's like the primary use case we've been discussing so far. Till now, all the interop protocols used to have like a OAP or a gateway or like multiple messaging interfaces which applications had to like first learn and build their application around. So our goal has actually been to remove these barriers and allow applications to actually build without like, even knowing that they are interoperating. And this comes back to like the point which, Arjun was mentioning. Our whole idea is to enable, teams like Li.Fi to launch on these new rollups faster on day one and let them like, be the best at what they do.
It's an interesting point. I kind of disagree. Like, I think that interop protocols were not built for liquidity. They were built for general message passing. Like Wormhole was built for general message passing. Layer 0 was built for general message passing. All of the kind of interop protocols that have been built were built for general message passing. And there have been some applications that have leveraged these tools. But the reason why you see everyone investing in liquidity is because that's like the 99% use case for interop. Everyone wants to move tokens. And for crypto in general, everyone, or today, and you can make an argument that it might be different in the future, but today everyone wants to move tokens, everyone wants to move meme coins, everyone wants to move majors to trade meme coins, and that's what the game is. I would love to see more applications that are natively built on top of interop. I just haven't seen that.
Yeah, I think, again, the whole point is that they were not, enabled enough to do that.
Wormhole would disagree, though.
It's the tech versus users, but we can agree to disagree.
Yeah, I know this liquidity-based bridge was created since the beginning, but in like 2 cycles, like before, like we already have a bunch of bridge projects like doing that. Like one of them is this sealer, and yeah, that's not something new. But then I want to discuss about something a little bit new. Like we all know that there's a bunch of these account abstraction and also chain abstraction, right? Do you think they can help you guys to solve some of the blockers as you just mentioned, right? Or you just feel like, okay, they are not the solution, they just create more problems for interop?
No, I mean, so chain abstraction is actually the UX layer of interop. So they need us to figure out all of the problems so that they can build better user experience. At least that's how I understand it.
Yeah, that's my take too. Chain abstraction is the UX part of interop. We need to solve the problems to enable that. I think chain abstraction, for what it's worth, again, I think chain abstraction is possible today, actually. There's a whole suite of products, intense protocols, fast transfer protocols, and most of chain abstraction, again, comes back to moving tokens or moving liquidity or moving money from one place to another place. And so I think a lot of that can be done, and you see a lot of wallets and a lot of applications starting to think along those design principles. Account abstraction, I don't think really solves much for interop. It's solving like a different important problem in crypto, but not necessarily related to interop. I think I think 772 is a pretty exciting upgrade to Ethereum. It's kind of different than account abstraction, but it's like allowing EOAs to have smart contract functionality. You can build a lot of automation there. Everyone who's a crypto user has an EOA, and so I think there's like cool use cases where account abstraction and 7702 can use interop under the hood, but I don't think it solves interop.
Yeah, I don't think chain abstraction is real. If you go to Li.Fi today or like Jumper today, you can see unified balances. You can like swap across tokens. You can swap across chains. So I don't see like the spin-off of chain abstraction over like account abstraction really like meaning anything. Now account abstraction does solve like a lot of problems now, and those are like separate problems to like what chain abstraction maybe claims every 3 months.
No, I think it's like interop is all the wires in the backend, and chain abstraction actually covers all the wires and shows it in a nice UI to the users. So it solves interop's like brand problem, I guess. But other than that, I don't think we can solve any new problems with it.
Then how about this intent system? We all know that there's a bunch of these intent system and also solvers, right? Either for this cost swap or across protocol, and a bunch of these like sort of EVM chains, right? The DeFi protocols on EVM chain, right? They're trying to have this solver like sort of network, and so in that way they can make all these interop or cross-chain operations transparent. Or sometimes they just ignore it because like anyway for user, right? Why they want most of the time they want to do the interop because they want to buy some tokens on the other chain, right? But right now with this cost swap or cross or this sort of like Uniswap V4 or Uniswap X, I can directly buy these tokens via the software network. Do you think it can be something like for all your protocols to embed into your current solution, or you feel like it doesn't really help that much?
I think all of our protocols are in one way or another supporting intents. Like Wormhole has the whole like intent bridges on top and then settlement beneath. Li.Fi has a catalyst for all the intent related stuff so that solvers can tap into our interface. order flow, and then like we also do support across Uniswap and all the different types of like intent marketplaces.
Yeah, I think, yeah, as Arjun said, Wormhole supports intents. Most interop protocols support intents, and I think I'm excited. I agree with Devain. Like, there are some applications like Jumper that are really natively cross-chain, where you can see unified balances. There's some wallets that have done a good job of this. You know, Rabby wallet shows you a unified balance. There are other wallets that show you unified balances. And I think what I'm excited for is seeing more wallets tap into unified balances, and users don't have to worry about where they have funds. They can just kind of interact with any kind of dApp, no matter where they have funds. So leveraging these intense protocols under the hood, I'm excited for that, and I think that we're going to start to see more and more of those kinds of features come out because the underlying technology is there to enable it.
I think in terms of intents, like we are like not the direct operator of an intent protocol, but we basically enable intent protocols. For us, the bet is basically to improve their money velocity so that user fees can ultimately go down and solvers can make ROI. So instead of waiting for 2 hours or 45 minutes to get your repayment or like settlement back, you can do it within seconds. You can batch it. You can like reduce the cost of like per settlement transaction.
And another question actually I'm using Li.Fi regularly because I'm using my Binance wallet to do swap, and by default they're using Li.Fi. And for Wormhole, because I'm good friend with some directors of Jump, so I'm working with the Wormhole team before Wormhole was like sort of spin-off from Jump. And Polymer is our close partner doing all these bridgings across rollups. Because today is this AI agentic web day, right? So what do you think about agents? Like, do you think there's any demand, like sort of building this interop across different agents? And do you have some plan around this? And yeah, what's your thought in general?
I mean, so for us, it's pretty straightforward because, like you said, Li.Fi is powering the Binance wallet. So every agent sort of has their own wallet. And we've seen some partners actually integrate Li.Fi to power these wallets so that any agent can do any cross-chain, same-chain swap. And even beyond, like, there's this DeFi AI UI trend, right? Like, so those front ends actually use intents behind the scenes to power some of those swaps. And that's also another place where we've seen our tech being integrated. So I feel like for us, it's a pretty straightforward integration because there are many examples already without AI that can just be automated. If you're feeling too bullish, you can also like have agentic flows. Let an agent kind of take over your wallet. I personally don't feel too comfortable doing that. So I'm actually not sure if that's the future. But yes, that's how Li.Fi fits into it.
Yeah, quite similar for us too. There are a lot of projects that are building, agents that can execute whatever action you ask them to in natural language. So in Telegram, you go and you say, you give it access to an EVM wallet or a Solana wallet, and you say, give me the best yield in all of DeFi, and it'll go find the best yield in all of DeFi, no matter what chain it's on. And then it can use Wormhole, or it can use Li.Fi, or it can use another interoperability protocol or intents protocol under the hood to facilitate that action. I think those are pretty cool products. I think there's a really cool improvement in UX and design space in those products, especially because like agents can just go and like do things for you, especially if the gas cost on chains is cheap. You don't have to like worry about writing smart contracts that compose a bunch of functionality and then getting those smart contracts audited. If you want to batch certain actions together, you can just have an agent, give an agent access to your wallet, and the agent can go and do multiple transactions under the hood for you, and you don't even have to think about it. So I think agents are pretty cool. I think the interaction with Interop is straightforward, as Arjun said, but still pretty exciting. And I would give my wallet to a Telegram agent.
You don't trust.
I'd give it like a limit of maybe $1,000 US and start from there. and see what it does. Maybe it goes crazy. Maybe it loses it all. Maybe it gets hacked. Hopefully not. But it's worth trying.
Yeah. So I think in terms of like AI agents, maybe some context here. So the way Polymer works is there's like an off-chain API and there are like on-chain contracts. So since this is like a simple off-chain API, it can be embedded into any AI agent. So some of the use cases which we are seeing, for example, with EigenLayer and like what Nima calls it is like a verifiable AI agent, that all the actions done by an AI agent on chain can be actually verified. The other use cases, for example, are basically different AI agents coordinating with each other across chains and agents being able to like trust the actions performed by another agent.
Another topic I want to get your opinions is like we all know right now the market condition not that good, and if we look at all the rollups, right, especially about the data, number of transactions, volume, and also TVL, right? If you look at Ethereum, probably the best L2 is Base. After that is Arbitrum. The other chains, to be honest, really like ghost chains. So in your opinion, so for the next 5 or 10 years, do you believe like we will have tons of chains, L1s, L2s, or L3s, or you feel like we'll probably just have the most used top 5, top 10? And then on top of this assumption, right? Like, do you think, so for your business model, right? Well, how you adjust your business model to extract value or generate more revenue on top of that assumption?
I think like our bet in general is that there will be more chains because that's the trend we've been seeing, right? Maybe most of the activity will be on the top 10 chains, but people will continue launching chains at an unprecedented rate, right? And with that, all the interop protocols actually have to build tech that's actually scalable to all of these chains. Because if you look at all the teams right now, I feel like messaging providers are one of the better infrastructure providers in terms of scaling to new chains. But because liquidity is such a problem in at least Li.Fi's business, like that's the one bottleneck that we see that we need to overcome to actually be live on new chains and generate revenue longer term. Because if you think about it, there might be more order flow between the top 10 chains, but there's no margin to make money there because there are a lot of providers there, right? So if you can actually be on a new chain early on and capture some of that flow, there's more revenue generating opportunities.
So you love fragmentation?
I mean, our business was built for fragmentation, so yes.
I see.
Yeah, I agree with Arjun that there's opportunity in new chains launching. There will continue to be new chains launching. But I think the way I see it is taking a step back. We are building for traditional finance to come on chain, right? And one of the things that Wormhole is focused on these days is partnering with a lot of asset issuers and a lot of institutional companies that are tokenizing assets and bringing them on chain. Like we partnered with BlackRock, we're partnering with Apollo, partnered with a bunch of other stablecoin protocols. And there is, right now, the total TVL of DeFi is like $100 billion. And the M1 money supply in the US, total liquid assets in the US is like $18 trillion. And that's a 180x increase in the amount of value that's going to come on chain. And with the amount of value that's going to come on chain, we need to have a lot more TPS. We need to be able to facilitate a lot more transactions than what we facilitate today. And I think just that simple fact means that there will need to be more chains, because currently we are nowhere near being able to support, even with Solana being fast, even with rollups being fast. Monad is here, Bearchain is here, right? Mega ETH, all these chains are a lot faster and can support higher TPS, but just the simple fact that there is 180x in value that we are targeting to bring on chain means we are going to need to have many more chains. And that's an exciting prospect for Interop, but I think it's also the reality of what we're building for in crypto.
That's honestly one of the main jobs of interop providers, that we build future-proof tech, right? So like if you work with a BlackRock today, they don't have to think about the chains tomorrow. Like only interop protocols actually build this sort of tech that can guarantee future expansion as well.
I think Nikhil touched on a very good point. So his whole thesis around having more chains is actually anchored around PMF of like, Solana and like, Wormhole directly. I think chains might not be the right word to say. I think applications which have PMF and then potentially can extract more value out of their users will have like, the notion of chain in the future. So we'll slowly see like the line between generalized chains, shift towards like applications, and those applications might just be like on a chain of their own or maybe like base. So I have a feeling that slowly down the line, we won't have like much community-based chains. Those will be just community-based applications.
These chains.
I don't believe like generalized chains will have like much of a moat. People will like know applications directly. I think it just complicates the whole flow to understand which server you are running on.
I mean, I feel like there's a world where you need both, right? Like if you're a big enough application with distribution, sure, you can have your own chain, but then not everyone starts from that position. So if you look at all the new apps, they start somewhere and chains figure out the distribution problem for them. And like that's why Solana is one of the best places for AI agents, because literally all the liquidity and the speculation is there. So I feel like I agree with the fact that there will be more app chains, but I don't think every app will be a chain.
Ultimately, base will have like an app store, right?
And on top of that, right, you all talk about like sort of the future applications, and like if you predict the next biggest application using your protocol, right? So what kind of application you feel like for the next few years can be the biggest one leveraging your protocol? Is it like still some swap, or it can be any this kind of normal DeFi protocol?
Yeah, I think applications that I am excited about that Interop specifically can help facilitate are, as I mentioned, asset issuers coming on chain, so stable coins, anyone who is issuing an asset and wants to distribute to the entire crypto ecosystem, that is a really exciting application. That's maybe not always a user-facing application, but it is a like customer or user profile that is very well solved by Interop. So stablecoins, asset issuers, RWA protocols, people issuing just financial products on chain is a major user profile. And then I think if you start to think about cross-chain flows and what can be solved with intents and faster than finality transfers, and the fact that there are users and communities on different chains spread out and kind of fragmented, I think that payments is another pretty exciting class of applications that is like very uniquely suited to Interop. There's of course trading and DeFi, and that's always going to be around, but I think emerging applications, those ones I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, I feel like every institution would probably have some sort of ecosystem of crypto products where payments, stable coins, and everything of that sort kind of fits in perfectly. And then they would need providers like us to actually swap all of these things with this whole like chain expansion that's happening in crypto. So I feel like that's definitely exciting. Then there will always be wallets, and apps will also become wallets. Like that's another trend that we're seeing. Like literally every app will have its own embedded wallet, and wherever there's a wallet, there's Li.Fi. So I feel like every app will want a provider like Li.Fi.
I think I have a kind of a nuanced opinion about this. So since we are like not an application directly, but I'll just give examples of like, applications on us which are building cool things. So for example, cards, which, will give you repayments as like cashbacks, and those cashbacks will like continue compounding with like, on-chain yield. Then banks will basically have access to tokenized yield positions. And all these applications are mostly, being built on their independent rollup to like provide that throughput, from day one. So these are like some of the use cases where on-chain derivatives or like our on-chain existing products, which are just like so natural to us, will actually become accessible to like the world out there.
Then, so my last question will be like, in your current roadmap, right? What's the biggest like sort of target for this and the next year? And regarding like sort of the volume, and what's your current volume, and do you have the target for next year?
So Li.Fi is right now doing $2.5 billion in volume every month. So our target for this year is to 10x that volume. And we have a good pipeline of like big integration partners that we actually see this has like a very conservative target. So we can definitely achieve those numbers. And in terms of like the product roadmap, we just announced Li.Fi 2.0. So that has different components, but at the end of the day, everything is basically built in a way that we can support any type of token and expand to any chain as quickly as possible, irrespective of which VM it's built on. And then, like, how do you abstract all of that, provide it in one API to our end customers, which is a wallet like Binance?
Yeah, on the Wormhole side, there's obviously our existing product suite that we're continuing to double down on and invest in. So there's NTT, native token transfers, which is our like flagship product for asset issuers that allows them to issue assets, burn and mint tokens and those assets across different chains. Continuing to partner with asset issuers and institutional companies is a big focus of ours. Wormhole Settlement that just launched 2 days ago is a suite of intense products meant to kind of cover the full user profile, meant to offer intense products built on top of Wormhole that are really fast, but maybe not necessarily as capital efficient, and ones that are maybe a little bit slower, but much, much more capital efficient and can facilitate much larger size transfers, all faster than finality transfers. And so that's another exciting product we rolled out very recently that we're excited to continue growing. Couple of other things that are coming soon, I think, that we're really excited about is governance. We're launching the Wormhole DAO, and we're slowly going to begin to decentralize the protocol more and more. And we're launching a multi-chain governance protocol so that token holders on any chain can participate in voting in the governance process. And we're actually pretty excited. There are other DAOs that are interested in using that product, so we're excited to grow that. And then I think one thing Arjun touched on earlier was making chain expansion more permissionless, more modular, more flexible. Today, like the security assumption of Wormhole is that all the 19 Wormhole guardians need to run full nodes for every chain that Wormhole supports. And that's not necessarily the most scalable way to connect to a ton of chains. You can support a lot of chains as we do, but it's not the most scalable. And so we're really excited to launch more sort of modular ways to connect to more chains and more permissionless ways to connect to more chains.
Yeah, as a protocol, our like closest target right now is to have like one-click deployments for like chains like Catalyst, Eco, Biconomy, and all the protocols which are building on top of us, so that they are like not stopped by us in their chain expansion vision.
Amazing. Like I'm super looking forward to the like sort of you achieve this mission, and especially on this huge volume, because I believe interoperability protocols are still the backbone of our existing crypto industry, right? If like sort of your volume can increase like double, triple, or 10x, 100x, right? Definitely, the sort of the size of the crypto industry is much bigger. Okay, thanks for the panelists.